Welcome to Cards of Insight, where we discuss all things tarot. And I'm Greg, and I live in London.
Anna here, joining you all the way from sunny Brazil.
Susan here. I'm here in Canada.
And Pavlina, greetings from London, UK.
And we are all tarot readers. Guys, the other day I was listening to Susan, and she was mentioning oracle cards. And I don't particularly read oracle cards, but I know that some of you guys do. So I thought it'd be a great idea to discuss it.
Yeah.
So
Why don't you use it?
me,
Yeah.
I don't like, without trying to be philosophical. There's a difference between, for me, a tarot and an oracle card. An oracle card is, I don't mean to brutalize it, an oracle card's a picture, which triggers your intuition. But for me, the tarot card is a deck of 78 cards. And I know that there is trump cards, major arcana, and the minor arcana. And for me, there's actually a difference. It's structured. That's what I appreciate, is the structure, because a trump card, for example, has got more power than the minor arcana cards, and pip cards speak more of everyday things. And even the court cards for me mean something in particular. I'm a communicator, like a conduit or a translator for my intuition. And to me, it's a different language. So I like to use as many tools as I can to structure the language. So the message will be according to the tarot cards. If it's a trump card, it's more powerful, like I said before. And that's the reason I prefer using the tarot cards. I could use an oracle card, but if I have two oracle cards next to each other, I don't have that. One's a minor, one's a trump card.
Yeah, you missed the structure then.
And it doesn't have the
Yeah,
numbers or things like that. It's not that I swear blind by the structure, but it's definitely a good guide that it's speaking to me in that certain direction, or it's speaking to me of that. Even the suits to me matter. I know that a ones card is about action. I know that something's going to happen with a ones card. There's action in there, as an example. And not to state the obvious, the cups being about emotion, and the earth signs for the coins. And don't forget the air for the sword.
I like the oracle cards. I often read with the tarot plus an oracle deck. And I feel like it gives me added dimension to the tarot reading that I may not pick up with the tarot, because I find, like you said, Greg, that tarot is very structured, and it's very, it's certainly a lot of information with it. But I find what particularly the oracle deck I use with my readings, it gives me a little more insight. It basically backs what I'm seeing in that tarot. And it gives me, I will say, like a juicier reading, if you want to say, but it validates what I'm seeing in my tarot. So I've gotten into the habit of using an oracle deck with my readings.
Susan, you said it gives you more information. So that suggests you actually use them together. So you'll use a normal Rider-Waite and then like draw an extra couple of oracle cards. You sort of mix them together. Is that what you do?
Yes, I do.
Okay. It's like a bit extra. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, it would be like if you pulled a tarot card just to back up another tarot card. You could do the same, or I could do the same, but I like the oracle decks that I use, because that's what it does. It just gives me a little bit more to the story that I'm seeing, which I really like.
I have a question for Susan. I also use oracles, but there's something that I feel, and that might, for example, Greg said he likes the structure. For me, it took some time for me to get adjusted to it, even though I like adding oracles to my tarot reading, is that the I don't want to say vibe, but the energy of the way the oracle card talks is sometimes different from the energy that the tarot uses to talk, if it makes sense. It's like two people giving you information. Okay, one is a serious, structured person telling you things and giving you depth. And then all of a sudden you have an incomer and that says, yeah, and by the way, there's this, that, and the other, which is excellent. Okay, it gives you a different perspective. It adds stuff. It can be even what they call a clarifier for something that you were, a card that was challenging or something like that. But it shifts. I feel it shifts, and that's I think for me was the hardest part of putting them together, was just to find two decks that kind of worked with the same message type, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. Like, it wasn't easy to find a deck, an oracle deck, to work with my tarot readings. And I prefer,
Right.
what I liked about the oracle deck I have, it's a very straight shooter, if you want to say. And it has maybe 1-2 words on it, but it's a picture. And, like they say, the picture is a picture is 1,000 words, right?
Mhm.
So I really find the simplicity of this particular oracle deck really validates what I'm seeing in my tarot. And I'm perfectly aware there's thousands of oracle decks out there. And that's what I've noted, because I've got many decks of both. And it's not a simple thing for me, this is my observation, to marry up a tarot deck with an oracle deck. It's taken me time to really fine tune that.
Yeah, it's almost like I remember being a teacher in the very distant past when you had to pair up students. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it was a disaster, and you really don't know why. But it's a question of actually finding a good match. And I've noticed that some people on YouTube, they like to match oracles and tarot that share the same style, the same artistic style. For me, that didn't work, for example, because the art style doesn't necessarily carry the same message if they are similar. So it's really a question of trial and error, saying which two go well together. Sometimes they're completely different in terms of art. One is very, just fluffy and girly, and the other one is a straight shooter, as you said, and they kind of get well together.
And I've read with a variety of different tarot decks, but I've been pretty consistent with my oracle deck. I've had a little bit, and you guys observed me, but I'm really in love with my oracle deck, I'd have to say. But I've tried numerous different tarot decks with it, and I really find that this oracle deck speaks to within my other tarot decks. So I'm really happy about that, frankly, that I'm able to have that particular oracle deck that is so, I'll say, fluid with my other decks.
Yeah, and there are different ways you can use them. I would never use just oracle cards for a reading. Just oracle cards. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be possible for me. I like to use them, for example, to at the end of a reading to get the general energy, overreaching the whole spread. That's a good one. It's just like, putting making the ends meet at the end. To complement a message that you're a little bit unsure about, you can even use them. And this is something that I discovered the other day, to establish topics to investigate. When you go for the general reading and people say, oh, I don't know what I should read about, you could get 2 or 3 oracle cards, especially the straight shooters. I think me and Susan, we agree with that. We like the things that are clear. So, for example, the one I use has just words and very basic pictures, very basic pictures. So, for example, one says disruption. So if I got that one, I would place it on the table and get a tarot card to see where in that person's life there is the possibility of something, being in turmoil or disruptive. and where could we work on it and how we could work on it. So it gives you the topics for investigation. So that's good. It gives you a focus instead of adding to what tarot already said. It goes the other way around, almost. You see? So you can use it in many different ways. And if you don't like cards, you can use, I don't know, runes, you can use dice. Pavlina uses the astrology dice, right, Pavlina?
Yes, I do. Yes. I
Uh-huh.
do.
And how do they add, or how do they change the reading, or how do they contribute to the reading?
It's the same question I ask usually. And then they give me input about the house, sign, and the planet. I need to look at the energy. Then I read from that. So is it additional like to do reading? For me, oracle cards, dices, or any other stuff I'm using, it's not as an additional thing. It's the same question and different answer, because, for example, all my oracle decks like Lord Ganesha or Kali, they are connection to do my spiritual world. So I ask the same question and I get one card, and I get answer to that. So it's not addition for me in the tarot readings. It is the question I'm asking as well. It's like I ask twice. I ask
So
the
you're asking two completely independent people about
yes,
exactly the same thing.
exactly.
Okay, got it. That's
Yeah.
a different way to do this too. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the times, if I, for example, get some abstraction houses in the dices, I know it could be something else, some other issues as well around the question. It could be other people involved, the family involved, and so on. Then I have to ask different questions. Susan, do you use astrological dices in your readings?
Yes, I have used them. Not maybe not as consistently as you use them, but I do use them. And I've also used those story cubes as well to
Nice.
give another feel for it. My question, so generally whether I use the story cubes or an oracle deck or whatever, like I usually use the same question for both from my tarot and for my oracle and whatever oracle I'm using.
Yeah, I agree. You don't change questions. It may complement, but the question is always the same.
Yes.
The same area. I agree.
And therefore, when I'll just say as I'm shuffling both, I will lay them out the same way. Like I'll do the shuffle, and usually I work in threes when I do the tarot deck layout, three different groupings, and I will do the same thing with the oracle. I decided long time ago that regardless of what deck I'm using, I'm going to be consistent in how I use them, because I find with oracles, like if you've get a variety of oracles, they'll say spread them all out and then pick a card and la la la. And I think, well, that's fine. But if I'm doing a reading, it's like I want to keep the process the same in my reading, more focus. So not that I wouldn't, someone couldn't do, spread all the cards out or whatever the author has suggested. You have to feel what is your focus? How do you want to connect with the cards?
People are talking about astrology cubes. What about dice? I every once in a while I try dice, and numbers come to play there.
You said dice, right? Are they numbered dice or have they got pictograms on them?
The usual dice with numbers on them. It could be the one for gaming, that have 20 numbers in them, or the ordinary, with 6.
Right. Okay. So then let's keep it simple, right? A dice is 6 sides. So you've got numbers 1 to 6. So would you allocate a subject to each number, or do you have, what do the numbers mean? So does each number have a meaning? Or do you use numerology?
No. I have my own personal a list of meanings for the numbers
Got you.
that I not only use for dice, but I also use for the tarot cards that I created myself for myself, the way I saw the numbers
Right.
showing up in the messages that same number always brought with it. So personal numerology, let's put it this way.
Right, but so if you got one, so you got to use. So if you got one dice, then you can only use numerology 1 to 6, right?
No, I use many dice.
Right. So you use more than
2 or
one
3,
dice.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
no.
geomancy, right?
I can throw 3 dice at the same time.
Okay.
See? And it also, if depending on how they land, okay, it means something else too. So it's very it sounds complex, but once you have a structure, you would like that because there's a structure. Once you have a structure for the way you use them, then you feel very comfortable. For example, if I have 3 people involved, I will assign each dice with a different color to a specific person and see how they fall. Whoever is closer to the other one has, issues to solve or whatever. It depends on the question. So there's a whole, it's a whole dynamic of how they fall, the numbers that fall together, in my own personal reading of the numbers. For example, I have no idea if this is numerology related, but to me, number 6 is a number for overcoming obstacles related to your childhood. Nobody taught me that, but that's the thing that I always see when the number falls there. So if I see a 6, that's what it talks to me about. See? But it has to be, somebody talks about consistency. Yes, it has to be consistent. Once you establish that, same thing for charms. If you buy a set of charms, you assign a meaning to each charm that you have, and you stick to that meaning. You cannot assign, the star is hope, and then next day you decide that the star means travel. You have to somehow train your psyche, your brain, or intuition, or all of them to what they're going to show you. It's like learning a language.
So in short, you developed your own personal dialect with your dice.
Yes,
or your
absolutely.
runes.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I remember, there was another practice you used. Was it geomancy, astro?
Yes, it was geomancy. But geomancy is it's a very complex practice. I have to be honest, I started using it, the basics, just the basics of geomancy, because you have a set number of structures, and they have meanings associated with them. But if you really want to develop on geomancy, it's huge. It is, you have a whole, spreads that you have to write down. It's almost like an astro chart. It's just enormous. So no, I started with it, but I cannot see I read with geomancy. I just add some extras there. But with dice, I know more.
I agree with you, Anna. It's a study unto itself, and I've looked at it numerous times, and it's just like stop, start, stop, start. So yeah, because it's complex in itself.
Yes, it's
I
very
find.
rich, very rich.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be honest, I think if everything you really invest yourself into is complex.
Yeah, I would agree with Palvina. I do Western astrology, and it's constant. Like, it's just when you think you might know something, it's like you know nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I
it's
know.
just, yeah, constant.
And this is why I absolutely love Kali deck, because I worship the Kali, and she is like speaking very loud to me through the cards. Lord Ganesha is very sweet. I like the deck as well. This deck, what I've got, I think that's the only one, is done by Angela Hartfield. I really like that deck. And when I'm in tarot groups and I want to find a question, Lord Ganeshan will come up with some coolest questions ever, like about your childhood toy or something like that. So yeah, that's my top 2 decks. Then I've got Moonology, but I don't use it that much. Do you have the Oracle deck on Moonology, Susan?
I have that deck, but I haven't used it with any tarot. But what the deck
Mhm.
that I really like, and you guys know I really like, I use the Sign of Times Oracle by Crystal Banner.
Mhm.
And it's a miracle that you guys don't know the deck by heart now, right? Because I use it so many times. But I really like it because I find it really speaks to me
Yeah.
because it's in
Yeah.
its simplicity.
It's very good. It's very simple, straightforward, and
Yeah.
modern. I would
Yes.
also advise, especially people like Greg who are reticent to start using oracle cards, to try the Prism Oracle. It's also a very good one. It has only one word, one color per card, and one very simple drawing, and it gives a lot of insight while you're reading things. So the Prism Oracle, I highly recommend.
Yeah. I have the Prism Oracle and I do agree with you.
Yeah,
It's my second one, I guess I would say
Mhm.
to the Signs of Times.
Very direct. Very direct.
Yes.
I've got a question. How do you approach, because I've got like the decks with the short writing, because that's spiritual decks. How do you approach the decks with long writing and description of the card? Because I've seen some of those, especially fairy oracle decks, they have a long descriptions.
Mhm. Yeah, I know what you mean. I have one with me. I brought it to the table to discuss. It's more or less what you're talking about. It's Alice the Wonderland Oracle, so it's based on Alice's adventures or whatever. And it doesn't have a story, but it has a lot of writings on it. So, for example, this one here says, "Keep your temper. Don't allow anger to rule you." Okay, you can just pick this card and say, "Oh, good advice. Keep your temper. Don't allow anger to rule you." That's good advice. But how can you apply that to a reading? I wouldn't use this as advice because it sounds a little bit not shallow, but it sounds okay. Everybody can buy a pack of cards, pull a card, and say, "Okay, advice for today: keep your temper, don't allow anger to rule you." What I would do with cards like these would be to pick one, put them on the table, and say, "Okay, this is talking about temper. This is talking about times of the day or instances that you haven't been able to manage yourself well, or you crossed the line or something. What are the areas that have been doing this to you?" And then you go to the tarot. It's the inverted use. And then you would get 2 or 3 tarot cards showing you where you should work that aspect of keeping your temper. You see what I mean? That's how I would use it instead of the other way around. But I do prefer the straight shooters myself. I bought this for the art. It's cute. But to be honest with you, I don't know. This is more for general readings when you don't know what to read about. So you pick a card and, for example, I picked one. It says uncertainty. Choose who you will become. So how would you work with that, for example? So it's a little vague for me, to be honest.
Remember the other day, I got a Gypsy Oracle deck and I used it for the first time with a reading. And you guys helped me because it was the first time I was using the deck. And I found it wasn't too bad. Like I was able to match it up with the tarot and with the Gypsy Oracle, with the pictures and that. And I think Palvina, you were probably the one that gave the most insight into those cards, which was helpful for me.
Yeah, because I've studied a little bit Kipper cards as well before. So yeah, it's a kind of different system as well. But obviously you shouldn't get stuck with the wording underneath, that bold word there, because that's not going to give you everything like in a reading. Anybody else read gypsy cards or keeper cards before?
No, I'm a little bit put off if there's too much writing on the card.
Right.
If the
I agree.
picture's nice, I'll probably use it and ignore the writing. I'll read it, but I just feel that symbolism is unique to other people, and that's that person's interpretation. It's their art, but it's their interpretation. I'm a little bit put off by that. I mean, I've picked them up and read them and went, yeah, I can see like some of the stuff they're saying in the card, but I wouldn't rely on it. No. I mean, why not put that information into a book and keep it separate? I don't know.
Sometimes you will find decks where you look at the picture, you get a very strong impression of something yourself, and then the
Yes.
word that's underneath doesn't match it at all. So this is it's quite common.
Or they say like, oh, you learn the basics in the tarot, like the generic meanings, and that'll stick with me forever. But almost every time I do a reading, the card seems to have a new meaning. So if I have to write every interpretation of what that card means for every reading I've had, I think I'd run out of space on the back of where do I write it on that card?
Yeah. So basically, it's the image that talks.
For me, yeah, and intuition, obviously, and
Yeah.
that's why when you use oracles, like you guys were talking earlier, you rely on your intuition a bit more, or you have to trust your intuition a bit more,
Mhm.
and that's what it's about. So when you're looking at the picture and your symbolism is unique to you, it's your interpretation. The other person's writing is their interpretation, and I think it's like rude to tell somebody what their interpretation means.
You're supposed to see this.
I've invented it. It's like this new like tarot rudeness. It's like like you have to have table manners. So I'm like trying to invent this new rule. Like it's called tarot manners. You don't try and interpret other people's cards. It's like rude.
Greg,
Yes, Susan.
well, you had mentioned, I think, at some point that you used a pendulum.
Pendulum. Yeah, I love old pendulum. Yeah.
And do you use that in your tarot reading?
No, I don't use it. I would like use it to get an answer and then do a tarot reading to get a little bit more detail or what. But I build a dialect with it, a dialogue. I mean, with it. So I would actually ask the pendulum, tell me what a yes is, tell me what a no is. And I don't like the maybe, but I always ask it for a maybe. Not that I don't like the maybes, because I believe you can change things, but maybe's not. It means, oh, which way is it going to go? It means you've got to do something about it to make it go either way. So I find the pendulum very good for me for yes, no, and maybes.
How do you remain impartial? Because I know about the training of the pendulum. Before you get the yeses and nos, you have to train it to, yes, it's this direction, no, is that direction.
Yeah, I
how do you
prefer to
keep-
ask the actual crystal. I use a quartz crystal on a chain, and I prefer to ask the crystal. I don't dictate to the crystal. I ask the crystal, what's the yes? Show me a yes. Show
No,
me a
that's
no.
not what I meant. For example, let's imagine that a yes is a clockwise
Fine.
turn and a no is a counterclockwise. But then you ask something and you want the answer to be yes or you want the answer to be no. How do you remain impartial and let the pendulum answer your question without you making it turn the way you're supposed to, you would like it to turn? This is my problem with the pendulum, because I make it turn the way I want it to turn.
Because it takes the slightest, subtlest little tweak to go in your direction. So any type of little bias that you have, yeah, I do get that. It's not easy, but you just have to stay as neutral as possible. I find that a little bit easier than the tarot to be unbiased. I'll correct it. Sorry, Susan, I'll correct it. I think
Okay.
I'm being unbiased. I think I am. I'm doing the best I can to think I'm being unbiased on my pendulum and thinking I'm not making it go the way I want it. That's at least what I think. But with the tarot, I know I'm being biased with the tarot. That's
No. I was just going to say the times I've used the pendulum, and I like using the pendulum. I will clarify, like you, what's yes, what's no. And I will even do a test for myself. Like I'll ask it, is my name Harry, for example, or am I a man, or, something to make it really, it has to deviate and tell me something. So if you want to say a test to ensure that it's doing its thing for me. And I know, and I've read, like, people, I haven't used it in so much in a tarot reading, but I know and read that, you know, how the process of using a pendulum in tarot reading, which I'd like to try. I have to try it
Mhm.
and see how
Yeah,
effective
me
it would
too.
be.
Me too. But without looking at the card. Because then, you know, that there's a whole expectation there. There's a whole, you know, waiting. I think the pendulum that I might be able to use is the one that has charts. Have you seen those? You know, charts with
Yes.
different, you know, the good time of the hour to take a medication. Then you have a chart, and you know, the direction it swings to is the right one. So that there's not a lot of you in it. You're letting the pendulum do its talk. But if you ask, for example, will I, you know, go to Paris next week, and you really want to go to Paris, the chances are that if you're not really good with your pendulum, it's going to give you a yes, even if it's a no. this is this is where I think I have issues with using the pendulum. Problems, not
Done
issues.
it. I've done it with my body. I've done the same sort of thing. I'll ask my body, if I don't trust the pendulum at times, I will actually do a test with my body where I'm asking it yes and no. So I've actually done that with myself,
Meaning,
which is meaning that my body, and this takes, you know, learning and trusting, but I will say that I will do the same thing. I will stand up. Normally they say to face north, but whatever. And I will literally ask my body to show me yes and then show me no. And I will see the movement of my body. You have to be careful you don't fall over, of course. Okay.
oh, so your body becomes the pendulum. Is that what you're saying? Oh,
Exactly.
okay. So you're not
Exactly.
using a pendulum. Your body is the
So
pendulum.
what do you
Okay.
mean? How
Yeah.
do you make your body a pendulum? What, do you hang upside
You
down like?
literally, no, you should try it if you're familiar with a pendulum. I challenge you to do it, Greg. Just stand up and just trust and just go within your body and say, show me a yes, show me a
Mhm.
no.
Mm-hmm.
And then you try asking it different questions. And I think you might, you know, it could be insightful.
Oh, I see
Mhm.
what you mean. Oh, so
Yeah.
you sense it. You mean you got to feel it?
Yes. Oh, you'll move. Your body should move.
Okay,
Your
I'll
body
try it.
should
I'll
move.
try
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. A
Okay.
deviation from tarot, but whatever.
That's an interesting approach, Susan.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
No,
interesting.
but that's good. That's good. But you can practice that when you're like waiting in queues and
Yes.
stuff like that. That's a good little exercise.
Exactly. Should I
Waiting for the
wait?
bus or something.
Yeah, should I
Yeah.
wait?
Should I wait?
Should I change lines?
Yes, exactly. People think you're maybe drunks that you're swaying
Oh,
back and
yeah.
forth, but whatever.
Well, hi.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you remind me of this was, you know, centuries ago. When I was young, and people used to ask in parties, you know, teenage parties, how many years they would have to wait till they got married. It was so much fun. But you see, this is something that if you do it for someone else, you're not really influencing much.
Mm-hmm.
So what we would do, it was fun, and it works. You get a glass of water, you fill it to the, you know, to the middle with, you know, just water. You get a strand of hair from the person who's asking the question, who wants to get married. You get a wedding band from anybody, it doesn't have to be yours or whatever. You put the string through, and you make your own pendulum with a strand of hair and the wedding band. And then you put that inside the glass, okay? Don't touch the water, and then hold it and ask, how many years does that person have to wait till they get married? Sometimes the pendulum simply doesn't move, which is, for some girls, it was a catastrophe. I'm never going to get married.
No.
And if it moves, the times it touches the glass are the years they'll have to wait. Sometimes it touches 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's a lot of times. And then when it finishes the years that you have to wait, it stops. It is really, really fun to do. You should try it. You should try it. It's fun. Really fun. So other uses for the pendulum are also fine. Don't relate necessarily to tarot, but I think in some cases, if you cannot be very, emotionally impartial, I don't even know if that exists, you shouldn't use it because you're going to influence the result. Same thing with tarot cards. Have you noticed that sometimes when when it's emotionally charged and you want a certain result or you're too anxious about things, the cards will look catastrophic. They're just reflecting what you're feeling. They're not really.
Or they're confusing. I find them
Yeah,
confusing.
that too.
Yeah. Like that's what I find. Like I will be confused. Maybe they're telling me black and white answer, but because I'm emotionally charged about something, I can't see the answer. And that's why I feel that, this is where you need to ask others to do readings for you and it's not, and you could, like, I'll write down the cards or whatever, but for me, then it's case of asking for validation with another tarot reader to do a reading for me to say, here's my question. That way, when I relook at those cards, maybe I can see what the answer I was not wanting to see or couldn't see.
True.
About the yes or no question, there are other tools like simply throw the playing card or just ask the chart as well. Horary or prashna. Yes or no?
Yeah.
That's what I find the aces and tarot very helpful. If an ace shows up, then you've got a clear yes. And if you get, I think it's a 10, if the 10s show up, it's a no. But I do believe you have to, I think the expression you use, Anna, is charge the cards so that they know this is what, their job is.
I don't charge them. I talk to them, actually.
You talk to them.
I told my decks, listen, guys, every time it's a definite yes, show me an ace. It doesn't matter what ace. It could be any ace. Swords, cups, whatever. Show me an ace. It's almost like a contract. Okay.
So
Every time yeah.
That means you set up the meeting with the tarot cards before you do reading. We go, that's the contract.
Whenever you want to give me a definite yes, show me an ace. Okay. That's that yes. So it's an agreement we have, and it works. You can pick any card you want. It doesn't have to be an ace. You can decide the magician is a yes for you. But this is very personal. Some people like the magician for, success.
Yeah.
If something will be successful, I'll get the magician. But you have to be consistent. I think for all those things, you have to be consistent.
Yeah,
because for some reason, intuition, even though it's not rational, it likes consistency. It I don't know. It frees it somehow, or it liberates it, or I don't know. It works.
So true.
And today we're speaking of oracle cards, but we're also talking of divination, right?
Correct.
Because,
Yes.
and I say that because, like, what is an oracle card? So if I'm sitting at a barbecue or camping, which is my favorite, I can actually sit and look at that fire, and you can actually scry with a fire. Some people can do it with clouds. Now, so is my fire my oracle card?
I would say so. Yeah.
So because you can do it with almost anything. Fire's great for that.
Yeah, you can do flame readings. I haven't done
Well,
it,
that's
but I know
doing it with a fire. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do flame readings where you take and light a candle, and then you think, like, you have the person think of a question and rub the piece of paper in their hands, and then the person will take your piece of paper and they'll run it over the flame, obviously not to get it on fire, and the smoke will give them an understanding. Like I don't know how to read those particular, the smoke readings, if you want to say, but it is another way of doing divination.
Yeah, tea leaves.
Tea leaves, yes. I bought a teacup the other day, which I haven't used yet, and it's all segmented. It's an actual tea reading cup where tea readers they don't have it quite like that. When they've learned, they've obviously don't have the lines in the cup saying this is for vacation or whatever. So I can't wait to try it out, but I've got to drink tea, and I normally drink coffee.
You don't even need tea. You can use a drop of ink in a bowl of water. That's
Oh,
an old way. Ink. You can use ink or something.
Sure.
I've seen people do that. That's quite old. That one actually. That's an old one.
so how do they
They've been
do
doing
it?
for a long time. You put water in a bowl, and then you drop a drop of ink in there, and then it will spread out over the bowl,
Make shapes.
just like the tea leaves spread out.
Okay.
Or
And
spread
do
over
you
the
know
bowl.
how to do those readings?
No, I don't know how to do it. I just know of them. Yeah.
Oh, you reminded me of one I watched the other day. It's very common over here. It's done with wax. You get a candle, a big bowl of water. You get a candle. You light the candle, and you hold the candle horizontally and let the wax drop. And as they start dropping, they make shapes, and you read the shapes that they make when they float on the water. So that's interesting too.
You mentioned already divination and Czech tradition on Christmas Eve. We do melt lead, and once it's melted, we put it in a cold water, and we predict next year from that shape.
Oh, nice.
Another,
Yeah, it's the same principle. Yeah.
Yeah, divination as well.
Probably easier to use the oracle cards than the tarot cards.
Oh yes, definitely.
Less messy.
Yeah.
Yes, look messy.
You reminded me of a lady I read about. I think she's in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. She reads using asparagus. Have you seen her? She throws the
No.
asparagus, and the way you can check her out on Google. She gets those long stalks, and she holds them, and then she throws them, and the way they land, she reads them. That's fascinating.
Well, actually, that is like a Chinese.
Yeah, something like
a Chinese sticks.
Yeah.
There's probably a formal name to it, and I do have those sticks. And you throw them, or you throw so many out, and they mean something. And I haven't done it for a very long time, but technically, you're saying it could be anything. You just have to have the focus
actually, the
to do
world
it.
is your oracle, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
I've seen people using scapulomancy, like throwing the bones. They created
Yes,
their
that too.
bones deck.
Or shells. Or shells as
yeah.
well. I mean, you have all sorts.
Very interesting. So we just twisted from the oracle cards to something else.
Yeah, because oracle is such a broad term, right?
And the most strangest one I've never seen, and I've never ever seen it again. And I actually saw this before, and this was somebody I knew. You know, back in the day when the TV aerial, when you had the white noise, you saw little dots going on the screen.
Yeah.
He stood there staring at that screen for a few minutes and went into a trance and started spewing out stuff that I didn't tell anybody. And I was like, oh my God, how did you know that? He was a friend of mine. I've only ever seen him do that once, but I've seen him do that with the white noise on the telly.
Oh my God, that sounds like poltergeist.
I don't know. He was gifted though. He was psychic and stuff.
He was going to be sucked into the TV. I would be afraid of doing. You know what that reminds me of? Also, to me, it's I don't have the guts to do it. Is doing that with mirrors. I'm really wary of mirrors.
Skyping. Yeah, I've got a mirror.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus, those are dangerous.
Skyping?
Yeah, you really have to.
Well, they call it Skyping, and I've done the Ouija board. I did that decades ago with my brother, and it's quite good. It was quite effective.
Yeah, but quite dangerous too.
Yes.
There's another scary thing to do, and I've done this before. Poke Runyon actually spoke of doing this, and he showed you this, and I thought, oh my god, it's a real thing. And you take a mirror. I've got a dark mirror, but you can use any mirror. Just make sure there's dim light, and you put one candle on either side of the mirror, and you stare into that mirror, obviously with a candlelight, and you stare into that mirror like sort of through the mirror, and you put yourself into trance, and you will see your face change. And the question I ask is, who's that face in that mirror? You need to. It's actually quite scary at first, so you have to get used to it. And I thought, well, why is the face so scary? Couldn't I like maybe, if I was more positive about things, call up something that's a bit more positive looking? And so I tried that. It was a little bit better, but they tend to be a little bit scary. I suggest you have a go. It's that simple, honestly. You just put the mirror there, a candle on either side, dim light, so you've got the light from the candle, and just stay in the mirror, like through the mirror, and put yourself in a trance.
Yeah.
Like go into like a trance when you
I
meditate
bet
or
the
whatever.
first thing that changes are the eyes.
Yes, Anna.
Yes,
Yes.
it has to be.
You go all
It's
dark
always
under
the
the
eyes.
eyes, but like it's not even slow. It's like whoosh, it goes quite quick, like you're watching a film, and
Uh-huh.
like when the guy changes into the werewolf. We watch American Werewolf of London. Okay,
You know,
maybe not that
you
fast, but
might also, instead of seeing yourself change, you might also see something behind you. And that's what scares me the most.
In the mirror. In the
In the
mirror.
mirror, yeah, because they can be portals. And you have to be careful where you place where you place your mirror in your room, in your bedroom. So, no, I'm very careful with those.
yeah, if you just get yourself into a trance and just stay there long enough, it will happen.
Mhm.
If you don't see it, it's because you're not getting yourself into trance. You're too tense. Try again on another day or something, or play
Mm.
chilled music or something. But
When I feel brave, I'll do it. I'll do it.
I haven't done it for a while. I'm going to do it again, actually. So that's a good one for people.
So there's lots of tools that you can use.
Oh, many.
I mean, obviously we're talking the tarot cards, and obviously what to use with the tarot cards. Like you can make a choice. Obviously you can use oracle cards. We can do story cubes, astrology cubes, dice, different charms, even runes, right?
Mhm.
But there's a variety of things. I think it's more of a convenience of what you have handy that you want to give it a try to. Because I think if you have the will or the focus, I think anything will work if you're looking for answers or want to do a reading. And you can use more than, like we're talking, you can put an oracle card there, but I've seen you, Anna, you've used your dice, you've used your charms within that same reading.
I'm honest with you. I wanted to try. It's reading with blank cards. This is a technique that I would like to try. And actually, you don't even need blank cards. It's just a prop. What you basically do, you ask a question and you close your eyes and you wait for the names of the cards to show up in your mind and you write them down. And they bring you the answer. Some people, instead of seeing, in my case, if I close my eyes, I won't see an image. I will simply see 4 of Swords, 6 of Pentacles, 10 of Wands. But don't overthink it. Just let the names come to you. Some people see the image of those cards. They can see, the boat with the 6 of Swords, or the crab in the moon card. So you write them down, and those are the cards that are going to give you the answer. So basically, you don't even need a deck with you. You have the deck in you.
Okay, so so you're asking the question, right? I'm assuming you're asking a question.
Yeah.
So you've got that in your mind, and then you just say, okay, tarot, bring me the tarot cards, something to that effect.
Yeah, something, for example, you just say, well, how will my trip to, I don't know, Cancun go? And then you close your eyes and the names, in my case, okay, because you might see images, I see words. In my case, words will pop. For example, 5 of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, and I write them down. If I'm doing free reading with 3 cards or 4 cards, I will write down the 4 names that came to mind. And then I'll read them as if they were cards. You see what I mean? No.
Yep. Yes, I do. That's a neat idea.
Yeah,
we could-
because of course you don't have the visual input if you really need it. If you really need,
Mhm.
for example, in the Ace of Swords, if you really need to see the hand holding the sword and the leaves falling or whatever, that's a little bit more difficult for you. But if you know your deck well enough, you won't need the image anymore. You know what that means, and it forces your intuition to really bring more stuff to the front without the image. It's almost like for people like Pavlina who reads pip cards or Marseille. I mean, she doesn't need a lot of visual input. She knows her cards so well that she looks at them and they have the meaning already. It's there for the picking. So I will try more of this technique because I think it's a bit liberating for you because the intuition just spits out whatever cards you're supposed to be looking at. And I've seen it being done with a Celtic cross. Can you imagine that? The person,
Wow.
yeah, the person drew. I don't remember who it was. If I remember, I'll come back on a podcast and and tell the name of the person. But they drew the spaces for the cards in as if they were in the Celtic cross. The positions, and they would look at the position and write down what came to their minds, and then read it there. I mean, without a deck.
That's neat. We should try it as a group and see how successful we are. Each person thinking of a card for a position.
The secret here is not to overthink.
That's right. You can't
you
overthink
can't
it.
concentrate and think, oh, what card? No, you just look at the position, and the first thing that comes to mind is the thing that you're going to write down. And the interesting thing is, you can have repeats.
Oh, yes, because you wouldn't normally get repeats. Yes.
No, you could get repeats. You can get three ace of swords there, which doesn't mean anything. It may be for the three positions, the answer is the ace of swords. And you just have one in the deck, and your mind doesn't care about that. It has no limitations.
And I've also learned that it's always the first one that comes into your head. I've always
Yes,
trust the first
yes.
one.
It's always
Because
the first
sometimes
one.
other things will come and then that's just noise. You go,
Yes,
no, no, no,
mhm,
no.
yeah,
First
muddy
come,
the
first serve.
waters. Yes, it's always the first one.
Yeah, and I thought I'll stick to the first one, but it is.
Mhm.
I always say it's a bit like remote viewing. It's there for a second, it's gone.
Yeah,
You've got to catch it as it comes in. It's the first thing that comes in. It comes in. But you remember it. Well, I don't mean it's gone, it's gone. It came in and you remembered what it was, but it comes in, it's gone. It's that fast. And it's the first thing. And then all other noise starts coming in. Because doing it that way, then you can use the same card again if you have to. It's more, you've got
yes,
more vocabulary.
yes,
Yes.
you can. You can.
I wouldn't have to buy so many decks.
Oh, Susan, you're a collector. You like buying decks.
I
not
do.
collector.
I do. Yes.
Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow us. And feel free to leave a comment.